Shalom. Kol halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakaha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than never. The would-be judges, the 144,000, which are the tabernacle of David, set up to rule here on earth in the new kingdom of heaven when heaven comes down to earth, under the authority of who the world ignorantly and fraudulently called JC. All right, as it says in the Bible, I saw the new Jerusalem coming down. Heaven will be here on earth, and it will be ruled over and governed by the 144,000, 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, which primarily make up the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and including those who are scattered to the four corners of the earth among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations. So this is not a black thing, as the Edomites and some of our own people try to fraudulently push that message by declaring that the black Hebrew Israelites, they label us that. That is a false term that they've placed upon us. We're simply the Hebrew Israelites. Right, and to the few Akwath that are listening and learning, to you we say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone, coming at you another brutal lesson in truth. The name of the video and its source is on the screen at the bottom of the screen. Do not ask. All right, do some work. Type something in. Okay. And first, before I go any further, I'm going to read the copyright disclaimer, section 107 of the copyright disclaimer. Under section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All right, so I don't own the rights to this. I'm not using it for monetary gain, simply using it for edification and teaching purposes. All right. And the first scripture I'd like to actually get before I even start is go to the book of Sirach, because this man is a proud man that never keepeth at home. Got to get that one, that one as well. But and the Lord hates pride. 25:2. And it reads, 3 sorts of men my soul hateth, and I am greatly offended at their life. A poor man that is proud, and these poor MAGA or Mawa MAGA means make Amalek great again. Okay? Not make America great again. If someone put that on a comment board, I had to borrow it. But make Amalek great again. All right? Because that's exactly what's happening. And as you're making Amalek great, you're deteriorating America and making these proud, poor Americans who are proud are angry. Okay? But it says, 3 sorts of men my soul hateth, that I am greatly offended at their life. But I thought the Lord just loved everybody all the time. See, you people, man. A poor man that is proud, a rich man that is a liar, and an old adulterer that doteth. And all those things are prevalent with Esau, Edom. All right. And adultery is unto the sin of witchcraft. And there's a lot of witchcraft involved in the government issues and the way that they govern here in Babylon, which is, America. Okay. So any further ado, I'm going to let, this is a 59 and like an hour video. I'm only going to play about maybe anywhere from 6 to 10 minutes of it. And just, do what I always do. I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to come in with some scripture and commentary. So here we go. We're at about the 4-minute mark. Yeah, let's go back. I started about right about there.
And to exploit vulnerabilities. Why build a global fleet of carriers when a new generation of missiles can render them obsolete? Why scatter bases across the planet when economic partnerships backed by defensive capabilities at home can achieve security without the costs of empire.
See, and that's what Russia and China did. And it's the Lord that put the spirit on them to do so. All right? Because America can boast about the mightiest navy, this, that, and the other. But together, China and Russia are way stronger than America. Plus, they have all these new allies now. People that America has mistreated and basically oppressed and stolen from. Okay? And Russia built missile systems that can counteract all of America's military might. Okay? So there's no fear of America, from Russia, as all nations feared America once upon a time because of their military might. And they use their military might to enforce their currency upon everyone else. This is what made America so great and wealthy, because all the other people were bullied into using American currency. And if you deviated from that, they would sick their military on you, label you a terrorist first, demonize you in the media first, and would justify destroying you and setting an example to make the other nations be afraid and fall in line. This has been American policy. This is what they've been doing since World War II.
The brilliance of this approach is that it strikes directly at the U.S. most cherished symbol of power, the assumption that its military is simply too strong to be challenged. This is the essence of what we mean when we say the U.S. military monopoly is ending.
Wow. Let's go to Isaiah 14 and 10 or 11. Yep, 14 and 10 and 11. It says, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp, see that arrogance, thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows, and the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. And worms are associated with death. And America has basically HIV, AIDS, and cancer. All right. And though they may, and as a matter of fact, it's starting to even show it from the outside. You know, a person can be sick with HIV or AIDS and still look perfectly normal because the effects of it haven't kicked in yet. Well, you can actually see in most big cities in America, all right, you can actually see the decay. You can see the worms. You can see the death. All right. And like I said, in America going around bullying everyone, putting tariffs on everyone, while China and Russia were building the people that America was bullying was helping to build their infrastructure. And now they trust and have aligned themselves with those nations. All right. And China and Russia also had a currency, have a currency that is backed by gold, not by debt. All right.
It is not that America has become weak. It still possesses immense firepower, sophisticated technologies, and unparalleled reach. But it is no longer unrivaled. The psychological shift alone is historic. Nations across the world.
Because, see, America still has all that firepower. But when it says, have you become weak as we, meaning we can now touch you too. See, the nations couldn't reach America. America could do damage to them at a distance, but now these nations can do damage back. And these nations are collaborating. They formed a tumult, all right, against America, against Babylon the Great, okay?
That once assumed U.S. power was absolute are now recalculating. The credibility of Washington's threats diminishes when adversaries and allies alike recognize that force may not guarantee victory. A monopoly, after all, does not erode quietly. It collapses once competitors prove it can be challenged. The consequences are profound. In practical terms, the Pentagon must now consider scenarios in which intervention could result in devastating losses. The myth of invulnerability is gone. More importantly, the economic and political weight of the
let's stop right there. The myth of invincibility, all right? Because they were so proud and arrogant. That brings to mind Obadiah. All right, I was talking about Obadiah and Isaiah yesterday. Now I'm thinking about it. All right, but this is Obadiah 1, and it's just one book, and it's one of the most fiery books in the entire Bible. But Obadiah 1 and 3 says, "The pride of thy heart have deceived thee," heart meaning thy mind, not your actual heart. All right, heart in the Bible is referring to your mind. Look the word up. "Have deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock." The Edomites came from the clefts of the rock, and not the Caucasus rocks, all right, but Mount Seir, which is in Jordan, which is in Western Asia, all right, which was once called Mesopotamia, at a certain period in time, all right, which is fraudulently and falsely referred to today as the Middle East. Middle East is just a direction, not a place, all right. That area sits in Western Asia, facts, all right. The southern part of Western Asia, the northern part of Western Asia is they call Europe or Eurasia. It still sits in Asia. All right. Every chance that I get, I have to mention that fact because that really hurts the Edomites' lies, their superiority and their thoughts. Just like they thought they were invincible. All right. Their lies are coming out, and then they're finding out that they're not invincible. And there's one thing, when you have a sniper weapon and you can sit way off and fight like a coward, but now all your enemies also have sniper weapons and they're all aiming in on you. You can't shoot them all. That's being the problem. That's where America is at this point.
United States is weakened because that myth was the foundation of compliance.
Yep.
When countries believed that U.S. power was absolute, they acted accordingly. But when Beijing demonstrates that even America's greatest weapons can be neutralized, the entire architecture of U.S.
Look at what the Houthis and the Iranians, as of lately, have done to Israel. All right? And Israel is basically supplied by America. And they showed you, even Hamas showed you that they're not impenetrable. They're not, the lie and the myth of the Iron Dome is exactly that. It was a lie and a myth.
Global influence begins to wobble. Hooks emerge everywhere we look. What does it mean when a rising power can, with fewer resources, redefine the limits of American might? What happens to U.S. foreign policy when its leaders can no longer rely on intimidation as their ultimate bargaining chip? And perhaps most importantly, what happens domestically when American citizens realize that decades of spending on weapons and wars have not delivered security, but instead left the nation vulnerable to challenges it never prepared for?
Exactly.
The end of a military monopoly does not arrive in a single dramatic moment. It unfolds gradually through a series of shocks that reveal the limits of power.
Wow. And that's also through their lack of wisdom. Okay. Trying to, while being in a consumer-based nation, you can't consume. America's the only country where they have 5 coffee shops on one block all competing against each other. Where you have vape and smoke stores, within the same, on the same block, kitty corner businesses. And when your citizens don't have money and they're struggling to just to buy food and make ends meet and keep a roof over their head, and yet you think that you can consume your way while this is going on out of poverty and consume your way into riches. Look at all the malls. Now malls are simply going to be military headquarters, FEMA headquarters, or what do you call them? Detainment camp places. What other purpose will they serve at this point? All right. This is Jeremiah 49 and 7. And it reads, concerning Edom, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? And it has. Their wisdom has completely vanished. All right? You know, the things that they've done in the past are not working anymore. It's a failing system. All right? Completely collapsing upon itself. I'm going to play a few more minutes and then read a couple more scriptures again and wrap this up. This isn't gonna be as long as I thought it would be.
China's advancements are such shocks. Each new technology, each new capability, each new demonstration that U.S. weapons can be countered chips away at a system that once looked permanent.
Wow.
The lesson here is as old as history itself. Empires that believe in their own invincibility are often the least prepared when that illusion is shattered.
Damn. And that's exactly what their pride, the pride of their heart, have deceived them. Okay? And they never kept it home, always involving themselves in other, you know, and being covetous, trying to take someone else's land. And now it's all backfired upon them. And then some of their closest allies have turned on them. And you know, and they talk about the Israelis, and Canada was a better ally to you than the Israelis, and many of the other other EU nations and things. But we understand what's going on with that whole, you know, with the who really controls and runs America. You just look at all the lobbyists and all the organizations that are not even American yet have control over American policy. All right. And that's not connected to anyone except the unstrategic landmass to America that they fraudulently call the Middle East. All right. But this is Habakkuk. Let's go to the book of Habakkuk 2 and 4. And it reads, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. Yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, his philosophies, his democracy, right, which brings the destruction of the family and the destruction of people, all right, food, water, everything you can imagine, all right. It says, yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, he's always in somebody else's land or territory, all right, who enlargeth his desire is hell and is as death. You know, what they enlarge their desire and bring hellish conditions, and they bring death to all these other places that they go to, and cannot be satisfied, but gather unto himself all nations and heapeth to himself all people. He wants all people together, but with the pale man in charge. Well, gonna all be together, but with us in charge, okay? Yeah, and look what that's got you. Look what that's got in the world. All right. Verse 6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself up with thick clay. And that thick clay is Ibat, I believe Ibat. And that's debt. You know, you have a debt-based currency, and you have a debt that's in the over 200 something trillion that will never be able to pay back. Is way more than 31 trillion. 31 trillion is an astronomical number within itself, but the real debt is over 200 something trillion. All right, so this place is fucked. So with that, I'm gonna give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakahak, Wadash, Kwam, Yasurala, Abad, Babal.